eastward of this whole system. And one of the things is it's holding off, and this just destabilizes this atmosphere out in advance of it, including here in central Arkansas, all the more. And we think there's a little lull as far as the winds just off the surface, but that should reverse itself in about an hour's time. And so these storms that are starting to form down to the south, we're going to have to keep a close watch on those. We're in a particularly dangerous situation, tornado watch, and that extends off to the Mississippi River, all but the far southeastern counties of our state. But that means that not just are severe thunderstorms possible, but tornado-producing severe thunderstorms, and maybe those that have a potential to be on the larger scale, strong tornadoes as well, just given everything that's going on in the atmosphere. And I know there's not a lot happening right now, but we're going to stick with coverage of this because we think that all of a sudden there is going to be a real potential for tornadic development in our state. We don't know exactly when that's going to be, but I would think within an hour's time, we're probably going to start to see the beginnings, and maybe even earlier than that, of some really large thunderstorms starting to develop. So let's go in on these storms that are really blossoming in the Arkadelphia area right now, on up into Hot Spring County, south of Malvern. But there are two storms out there that I think that are bear watching, and then others on down around Fordyce and Kingsland and in to the southeastern part of the state. So those are the things that we're kind of watching, and then the main line itself. And one more, and James mentioned this just a little bit earlier, and this is in the western part of Pike County, right there. Another storm. It's kind of out in advance of that area where there's a lot of rain right now. We're not discounting that as a possible tornado-producing area. But those are the ones that we are going to be watching as we head into the evening hours. And I think that the National Weather Service has talked about this. There's a real growing certainty that the wind field is going to be really conducive to thunderstorms that could rotate as it moves, it progresses farther out into the state. And I know we don't want to hear that, but that's the science behind it. And so I think we're going to probably start to see that happen. We know where the rotation within these storms is. We'll keep you apprised of it, have a plan of where to go in case you have a tornado warning in your area. And let me tell you, not everybody will, but there will be some around the state. We're fairly confident of that. And so that's why we're on the air. That's what we do. We do it better than anybody else. Or TV does it better than anybody else as far as showing you where rotation is. And that's why we say have that plan in place. We're going to continue to watch these lines of storms as they move on in. Austin, do you have a little information for us?
Yes, just in case, we got that severe weather increasing here in the next couple of hours. You take the screen there. It's always safe to be well prepared for any severe weather event. And by looking at this is a severe weather preparedness kit you can have in any of your storm shelters, if it's a tornado shelter, basement, or even the most interior part of your house, just to have with you at all times during any severe weather event. It's great to have a first aid kit. Make sure you have a weather radio. You could use your phone to tap in and listen to us on KATV.com or even on social media. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever we're on. Also, some other things you'll need to keep is, maybe some water, cash, just in case you lose electricity. Just some good things in mind to have during any severe weather event, because this is Arkansas. We get quite a few. We've already had a couple so far this season so far. So again, this is something you need to have with you every single time we have any kind of weather event. Again, Barry, we're just watching that line of storms over towards areas of West and North Arkansas, but we know that tornado watch still goes until midnight tonight, so we're nowhere close to being done with this event.
No, we really aren't. The whole system isn't just going to blow on through. The front's not going to just make its way completely through the state. We're out in advance of the front here with these storms, and the storms that are developing out in advance of that line are the ones we're really kind of concerned with. But the whole front itself will stall out, and so we're going to have more of this heavy rain. And there is a real heavy rain threat out along this corridor here, flash flood warning in effect for a broad area of western Arkansas. Go back to that. and the green outlined area there. 1.5 to 3 inches of rain could have already fallen. It could be on the order of 2 to 4 inches total in those areas. That could be extended out a little bit farther. And I know we've been dry, but the rainfall threat eventually, not so much tonight as eventually as we head through the rest of this week, I think is going to be pretty significant across our state. All right, we're going to be watching these storms that are developing. James, what are you seeing as far as the kind of these showers really that are out in advance of the line? What are they doing now?
Some of the latest data, and some of it incorporates AI into it to try to learn what's going to happen. It blows up a couple of supercells out of this zone down in southwest Arkansas and this zone coming up out of El Dorado to Jefferson County. The showers that are developing could eventually become storms that could be quite worrisome. You know, we had one point had thought we might just have one solid line that moves through the state, but that really hasn't been the case. And I know this line doesn't look like much now, but as you get a better upper level support just towards the east, it's a fancy way of saying the storms are going to intensify. They're going to do that for sure as they approach the I-30 corridor. But the biggest concern we have had really since we started looking at this event was the chance that we get some supercells in advance of that line. And I think we very well may out of this section right here, and then the storm that's moving into the northwest section of Pike County. And I know it just sounds like we're beating the same story here over and over and over, but the weather is changing in real time. We are past 4 o'clock, 4:05. We have no tornado warnings, no severe thunderstorm warnings in the Little Rock TV market. But I think it's important that with the heightened threat that we have today, we keep everyone weather aware. So we know a lot of Central Arkansas schools dismissed earlier. This line is held back towards the west. I think that has actually increased the severe weather threat to the metro area with how warm and humid it is. Of course, you just step outside. You know what kind of day it feels like. This morning when you went outside, the dew point was near 70, and we had temperatures near 70 as we woke up this morning. We'll do a quick radar check of anything that may be rotating. And while I do think we have some high wind coming up on US 65 between Damascus and Clinton, not seeing anything that is concerning for immediate rotation. And up towards the north, we still have a strong storm north of Mountain View. Out into eastern Arkansas, there's a storm that continues to grow near Brinkley. And I think that's going to be moving into northeast Arkansas here over the course of the next few hours. It is rotating, it does look like. Well, maybe on the north side, that'd be a little weird place to have it, but at least probably rotating at the mid-levels. That storm probably is going to be pretty impressive as you get several hours down the road. And then as you look down into the stuff coming out of northern Louisiana, and I look at the stuff there because this is a storm which is going to come through Union County, it continues to grow. And if it can continue to grow, there's actually a gradient right here that runs from about El Dorado to Little Rock of more favorable conditions. And so I have a concern that this stuff right in this zone may try to get going. And all we have to do is wait and see. So we're watching all that very closely in the zone down into the southwest part of the state, still just a disorganized area of thunderstorms. But this storm that's getting itself put together near Arkadelphia is kind of taking on a look there. If it can interact with better wind fields here in an hour where it moves towards the northeast, it may be one for us to really, really watch. So I still think we're about an hour out from a very significant threat kind of taking shape. This is just kind of the precursor to what we're doing. On days like this, you have multiple factors at play, and we can't tell anyone until it really starts happening where a tornado is going to touch down. We can't do that a day in advance. We really can't do that 6 hours in advance. We can do that as storms form about 15 minutes to an hour and a half in advance. That's when you really feel comfortable about telling you where tornadoes are going to form. So I've had lots of people ask, is a tornado going to hit Little Rock? We don't know. We know the environment across the eastern half of the state supports storms that will produce tornadoes. So as these storms put themselves together, that's the concern, is that there's going to be a couple of zones of storms that could produce those tornadoes. We've got a new warning in the state, and we'll look at that here, and that's that storm that's coming out of northern Louisiana, and that storm is coming into Union County. And we actually do have quite a few viewers there in El Dorado, and that storm is going to be east of Junction City, likely east of El Dorado as well. It's moving northeast at 45 miles per hour, and it does have a tornado possible tag on that warning. They just tagged the severe thunderstorm warning with that if they feel like the storm may go on to produce a tornado. Looking at that'd be the Little Rock radar, the Shreveport radar, maybe some elevated rotation on that storm, and maybe the storm to the north as well, as they both intensify and move towards the north. Back over West Arkansas, it really appears to be just a large area of rain and thunderstorms, but I don't want anyone to let their guard down. The forward progression of this has slowed, so really what you're seeing is the first really heavy rainfall event of the day getting underway with 1 to 3 inches of rain that's fallen along that corridor. And tonight, here in southeast Arkansas, up towards the I-40 corridor, there's probably going to be a zone of 3 to 6 inches just tonight. Remember, we have spots that could see 8 to 10 inches over the course of the next 4 days. Just tonight, 3 to 6 inches for a zone. It's not going to be everybody, but a zone between south and central Arkansas, and that's as this line finally pushes towards the east. Barry, don't you think the forward progression of the line here really increases the chance we see some supercells in advance of it? It's really just crawling at this point.
Yeah, but I think it should pick up later on, and then we watch everything out in advance of it as well. There is one severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect, and that is all the way from the eastern part of Van Buren County up into Stone County and into Cleburne County as well. And the leading edge of it is right along the Highway 65 corridor there. That's the kind of the front line, and there is some wind that's bowing out with that. I don't think it's a huge wind, but I think it could approach 50 miles an hour in a couple of spots, and it is warned for winds up to 60 miles per hour as it progresses right across the highway there, right across Clinton. I don't see rotation with it. We're going to continue to watch that storm. That's the only severe thunderstorm warning that is in the state. And so we watch that, and then we look back down the broken line. The one storm that I see that is a little more concerning is north of Daisy, and that's in the northern part of Pike County into southwestern Montgomery County. Kind of out by itself, kind of on the southern end of this whole area. So you go back behind that, and there's just a lot of rain up there. It's kind of cooled. This environment is not really cooled. And there are other showers that are trying to get going all the way from south of Gurdon up through eastern Clark County and into the Malvern area, almost all the way up there. Now, just as I talked about that storm, the National Weather Service has issued a warning for this storm right here out to the west of Glenwood, and it will continue to move up to the north. We'll go a little bit closer on this one, and that is Highway 70 that runs there through Daisy and up to Glenwood, Highway 240. Velocities on this, they don't look that impressive, but I think it probably is starting to have some hail potential. Yeah, just a little bit of a hail potential there to the west of Daisy. That's the core of it. And it will continue to move up. In Hot Springs, you are in that severe thunderstorm warning. Notice where that storm is compared to all the rest.
We've got a tornado warning now. That's Woodruff County.
Over in eastern Arkansas. Yep. So that's the storm. You had a little bit of rotation with that. We're going to go into it. I'll let James talk more about it. But it's around the cotton plant area, and rotation, yeah, beginning on that one and moving almost due north. That's the direction it's going. So this is way out in advance of the line. The winds are starting to pick up.
So we got strong rotation approaching Highway 38 just west of Cotton Plant. This is a small little supercell. I bet this thing is visible for several miles. I bet there's a very good wall cloud. Austin, I'm not sure if we have a chaser in the vicinity. I bet we're going to here soon. I don't think Cole Outlaw is in the vicinity of this. We'll have to check with Zach Hardcastle. But this is a possible tornado. This is in Woodruff County. It's near Robinson Road along Highway 38, and this is moving due north. I do think eventually it's going to turn more northeast, but right now moving due north, and so this is not the normal west to south motion. It's moving due north. Now, if you're in Cotton Plant, you can probably see this thing. It doesn't look like it's down, but I'm willing to bet that you're getting some heavy rain right now. I'm betting you should just get in your tornado safe place. This storm has continued to grow in size over the last really 30 minutes, and as it's done so, it's developed some low-level rotation, and now that's what we're seeing. That's going to be near, just north, and actually just west of Cotton Plant, moving towards the north. So that's a tornado warning that's in effect. The storm is moving north at 55 miles per hour and is moving really just in a straight due north line. Now this does go out to McCrory and Augusta. So I'm going to put a storm track on this storm as it moves off towards the north. I want those of you in McCrory especially to go ahead and seek shelter, and it looks like I'm going to have to zoom out here to get a better storm track on this because it is moving just so quickly. And we've got this one little storm out here, and this is what we didn't want to see. There's an isolated supercell now that's moving through, this is almost exclusively in Woodruff County, moving due north, and at this rate, that would put it well into Jackson County here in just about an hour. And so here's a couple of the towns that this could impact, and this takes it all the way out to Newport. We'll see if this thing holds together, and I bet it would be just towards the east of Newport. But the tornado warned storm gets up into McCrory at about 4:34, so that's in about 20 minutes. This thing crosses Woodruff County if it maintains its current speed, and then it will move up into Jackson County. The environment over eastern Arkansas, unlike areas further west, very supportive of tornadoes, and this is, of course, in that high-risk area. I want everybody in Woodruff County to take your tornado precautions. Remember, tornadoes could be strong today, so even if we don't have a storm that's looking like it's producing a tornado, it very well could very quickly. Austin, let's check with the stream for Jai Collins. It looks like they are very close to it. So let's pull up their feed here. Let's go to the storm scan computer. I think, Austin, I think you've got it, and here we go. So this is Cole Outlaw and Jay Collins. They are, it's really hard to make out, but I can make out the base of the storm there. I think they're pretty close to it, and so we will come back to that in just a second. Austin, if you would keep your eye on their feed, we will come back to their feed here in just a minute. Barry, do you have anything to add? I don't want to miss what's developing out to the west. Is there anything else?
No, just a couple of, we'll get right back to that storm, but just a couple of things I'm noticing here. Rain starting to break out in Little Rock. It's already breaking out to the east of Arkadelphia. And I'm going to just kind of zoom in on some areas. We still have the west of Glenwood. We have the severe thunderstorm warning for this storm right here. I don't see any rotation with it yet, but it's kind of on the south end of that area of thunderstorms. So it's got some warm air that it's ingesting. And then we have rain out to the east of I-30. We're talking about Donaldson and Malvern and eastward. Showers, a couple of thunderstorms, some lightning within that. Those are starting to want to grow up in the atmosphere. Down around Risen, headed toward Pine Bluff. A little more rain starting to break out there. Could be the beginning stages of some of those severe thunderstorms that we talk about. But right now, there's not a whole lot to them. And then in the Little Rock area, and I'm going to zoom back in, these have really just grown up in the last, just in the last hour. You can see how they're just growing. And look at that. This is, I think it's growing quite quickly. I'm going to check something real quickly here, but I think we could probably start to see lightning and thunder with these storms in the Little Rock area. Not yet. It doesn't look like, but I think very soon we could start to see it. So some rain breaking out across the Little Rock area, storm out in the western part of Pulaski County. And notice this. This is a shower, probably soon to have some lightning and thunder with it, but look at the shape of it. All of these storms that are starting to develop as they get a little bit bigger are going to start to take on that look, I think, if they're out by themselves. Again, there's nothing to that storm except some heavy, heavy rainfall and maybe some lightning and thunder soon, but we're going to watch for things like that. All of this is not going to stabilize the atmosphere very much. It's going to be over a relatively small area. A lot of times we'll say, well, the rain that stabilizes the atmosphere. Well, it will have a very small effect. But we're going to have to watch showers that are developing like that. But right now, over in Woodruff County, we have the tornado warning, and I think our storm chasers may be coming closer to that storm.
Yeah, let's take a look at storm scan first. Let's look at the storm, just kind of get an update. That is the base of that supercell. Look at that. I think, Austin, you can use the mouse to kind of make out some of the features there, but that is the base of a developing supercell, and you can really see the updraft and how it is tilted. You can see that. Now, it looks like they're turning the camera off towards the left. Austin, can you see anything at the base of that storm?
No, it still looks like it's pretty elevated base, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see that updraft tilted up there. I'm kind of mousing over it right there, but something to definitely keep an eye on that maybe could quickly spin up something here or get its act together quickly. You see they're zooming there.
That's a great shot.
That is a great shot. Maybe a little lowering there, maybe on right there that they're zooming in on there. So they're watching a little area of concern there on that storm there in Woodruff County that is currently tornado warned. So something to definitely keep an eye on, and they're doing a great job doing so.
Now, they are probably too far away for us to see if it's rotating or not. They could probably be able to tell us more so. It looks like this storm is in the very early stages of development. So while it doesn't look like there's a tornado down now from what they're looking at, that can change. Let's go to the first security camera looking towards the west. We've got storms developing here in the metro area. Austin, keep your eye there. There's the view towards the west. We have a couple of showers and thunderstorms going up here. Right now, they are not severe. I do want to go back to Max 1. I want to show you something that I'm watching off towards our southwest, and it's the shape the storms are starting to take towards the south of Little Rock. They're kind of elongated. You're starting to get a little bit of a hook there. That's in northern Dallas County. This is rapidly growing. The last 45 minutes, we've gone from just a little bitty shower to something that's a little bit larger. If this can organize, it can have tornado potential as we approach that 5 o'clock hour. So we are going to keep a very close eye on that. We are watching several severe thunderstorms in the state, but of course the most important storm right now is the one that could be providing a tornado threat into Woodruff County. And coming up on Highway 64, that's where this supercell is headed. It does, on radar, we're seeing weak rotation, and we kind of confirmed that from the stream that we just got from Cole Outlaw and Jai Collins. McCrory, I would even say Morton, Grays, down Highway 17, maybe even as far east as Penrose. Go ahead and take your tornado precautions. And Austin, don't you think this is high enough base that I think this is actually a tornado you'd be able to see if it got down?
Yeah, for sure. Looking like the makings of it, especially from the camera angle we got just a little bit ago. And I don't even know if there's a lot of precip with this as well. Very low precip. I saw some lightning with it a little bit ago on their stream. But they're trying to get a better angle of it, maybe out towards some open fields. They're kind of caught in the middle of some trees right now, but still watching that base there to see if it's rotating and see if they can get closer towards it.
Now let's take a look at the velocity. Let's maybe look from the Memphis radar, and yeah, there's an area of rotation there. And again, this is well north of Cotton Plant, but this is headed towards McCrory. And though we're talking as if the rotation's pretty weak, we can't see the base of the storm, I don't think it would take much to have the storm quickly intensify and you put a tornado down. And it's moving rapidly north. So if you're in McCrory, you should be in a tornado safe spot. And with it arriving from the south like this, directly from the south, it may be hard if you're looking due south. When I say it's probably visible, I'm talking about from the surrounding area. If you were in Cotton Plant or if you're in Hunter, if you're off towards the south looking north, it's probably visible because the base is so high. Barry?
Well, yeah, a couple of things there. I do want to take, I want to go back to that storm because we do have storm chasers on that. Here's a look at, on our storyteller about the rain that's falling in the Little Rock area. And along 630, it is just poured there. It's kind of letting up right now, but that is the system that's moving, just a shower that's really developed in the Little Rock area. If we go back to our source number 2, you'll see that that area of rain has moved now across I-630, but it's moving up and across into North Little Rock, across the Arkansas River, and that's just heavy, heavy rainfall. I don't see any rotation along with that, but these are the storms that are starting to really erupt. The atmosphere is destabilizing. There's no doubt about that. And the velocities on this still are just really unimpressive. So it may be a while before storms like this begin to rotate, but we're gonna have to watch out for all of those down around Magnet Cove, Malvern, on down into southeastern parts of Hot Spring County, and then out to the east of town, along with that storm that's west of Glenwood. Still, that is severe thunderstorm warned. I don't see any rotation along with it at all, though, and that is some great news out of this. But let's go back. So we're watching all of those, but let's watch, is the tornado warning still in effect for Woodruff County?
No, they canceled the warning.
Okay.
But there's still a little bit of a base on it from storm chasers, so
Yeah.
it's something still worth monitoring here for the next
Yeah,
couple.
we've got a really good shot of
Yeah.
it right now. If we could take that shot, you'll see that the tower has grown up, but they don't see any obvious sign of low-level rotation there. So yeah, we're continuing to watch that. So again, no tornado warning in our state right now. I hope that does not change, but I fear that it probably will in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, we can go back and kind of take an overall view, kind of reset the table here. So we just had a tornado warning that was in effect for about 5 minutes, had some rotation with it and diminished. But now we're starting to see what we hoped we wouldn't see. And I'll point out a couple of things to you. The storms in North Arkansas over the last 45 minutes, they just have not advanced much towards the east. That's allowing these storms out in the warm sector time to put themselves together. I still think we're maybe less than an hour away from the best ingredients really taking shape, but we're going to have to really, really monitor the storms on the south side of the Little Rock metro area and the storm coming out of Louisiana, moving into Arkansas. That's down in Union County. That actually has a severe thunderstorm warning. And just by looking at the shape of it, I'll zoom in a little closer here. Wouldn't surprise me if that ends up getting a tornado warning. And that's in Union County. That's east of El Dorado. It does look like there's some rotation on it. That's going to pass over. It's moving just north-northeast. That's going to be a threat to Bradley County here coming up in the next hour. So if you're in Bradley County, keep an eye on the storm to your south. Severe thunderstorm warned right now in an environment, though, where it would support tornado production. So that is, I think, the most worrisome storm that we're watching, at least right now. Back towards the Little Rock area, we've got a lot of rain and lightning taking place now to the southwest of town. It's a storm that continues to organize itself. It's raining heavily in Poen and Malvern, just to the east of the southeast part of really just southeast of I-30. Anytime you can see kind of a band of storms grow like this, sometimes we have gotten some really nasty tornado events from setups like this. Over towards the Pine Bluff area, still just seeing showers, and you know, when it gets real serious, you'll know. A lot of this is just kind of the early stages. We've got 3 severe thunderstorm warnings in the state, one coming up on Hot Springs. We've got another one coming up on Cleburne County, and it is a storm that is starting to take on supercell characteristics, and it's going to be heading towards northern Cleburne County into Independence County eventually. And so those of you that are in that area of the state hit very hard 2 weeks ago. Watching for rotation on that, still don't see it significant. We don't see significant rotation, but that storm is one that, you know, it's going to go over Greers Ferry Lake. It'll continue moving off towards the east, and then the storm that's now just to the west of Prattsville and southeast Hot Spring County, guys. It's early, but it's just something to monitor. You know, I bet the bases of these storms look pretty impressive, kind of being all out by themselves. There's multiple tornado warnings out there in western Tennessee and a couple of confirmed tornadoes as well. So we're just really, guys, I think this is just, this zone especially, Little Rock eastward, seeing these cells pop up by themselves 4:30 in the afternoon, I think, Austin, it probably doesn't bode well for a couple hours down the road if some of these storms can mature.
No, and when you had it in play earlier, you can just tell how quickly they've developed here in the last 15 to 20 minutes. It's still worth noting, watching that severe storm out towards Montgomery County, moving towards Hot Spring and Garland County. Severe warned, but still keeping an eye on it, as well as those individual cells there that are trying to get going there south of I-30 in Little Rock. Here's a look at those storm chasers again in Woodruff County. We're still tracking them as they were on that previous tornado warned storm just north of Cotton Plant. Not seeing much. I think it was to the left of their screen there. They're just probably trying to get out ahead of it. But we're going to go back to VRAD. We're going to go to Storm Scan and show you, again, those additional storms that we're tracking. There's that one northwest of Stuttgart to keep an eye on here in the next maybe 30 minutes or so to see how quickly it can maybe grow here. You can see the latest scan. Just look, in the last, I don't know, 45 minutes or so, storms have really just blossomed there from Arkadelphia up towards Hot Springs. Little Rock, we've heard a little bit of rain hit the roof of the station as well. So really worth noting, watching how storms are quickly developing here across central Arkansas, and we'll just continue to see that blossom here in the coming hours. Still watching that one severe storm there in southeastern Montgomery County, just north of Glenwood, kind of just north of Kirby as well. This will continue to move towards the Crystal Springs area, closer to Lake Ouachita, along 270 there. That's a place to keep an eye on. That one could have some hail as it does slide off towards the north and east. We'll also look at the winds in the storm to see if there's any rotation. And not even really seeing any elevated winds that could produce some strong damaging winds. So that's a good sign. Mainly a hail threat right now, but we'll definitely have to continue watching it as it slides quickly off towards the north and east into Garland County. Another storm there north of Mountain Pine towards Jesseville that could produce maybe some small hail, but is below severe limits. Still concerned with watching these storms develop there south of Malvern in Hot Spring County, sliding up towards areas of maybe southern Saline County towards Bauxite and those locations here in the coming hour within the next 30 minutes or so. So we'll continue to watch these storms as they continue to grow. Again, that tornado watch till midnight tonight. It's a particular dangerous situation, tornado watch. So we definitely have an atmosphere conducive for tornadoes, some in which that could be strong. We'll continue to monitor radar here and any other developments. If you see anything, send us your pictures at KATV.com/chime-in safely. And again, we'll watch these storms as they continue to develop. There, Barry?
All right, yeah. I'm just looking at a couple of other storms that are of note, and the National Weather Service is really talking about the one western Perry County extending up into Yell County. There's a wind threat with that, kind of a bowed out area of wind. So a new severe thunderstorm warning in effect for most of Perry County, for Atkins, places like Morrilton, most of Conway County, and it extends all the way over into Faulner County and Conway as this will continue to move off to the northeast. And we'll watch for any signs of rotation, but that's a wind threat, I think, with that. So the atmosphere is starting to get a little less stable. A couple of ingredients that we had been missing here in Little Rock, the low-level jet, that really strong low-level jet coming in advance of the upper-level winds that are coming from a more southwesterly direction, kind of missing that still. But the National Weather Service says the dew points, or the humidity, just the absolute humidity content in the atmosphere is really starting to surge. And that's one of those ingredients that we're starting to figure will enter into the pieces of the puzzle that make these, some of these storms, not all of them, but some of them, severe weather producers and possibly tornado producers in a little bit of time. Austin talked about the one coming into southeastern Montgomery County. Will be headed up toward Hot Springs. There's the one that I talked about, and then obviously the one on up coming into Cleburne County and Stone County out of Van Buren County is well, I like to call it just a wall of water, but when you have a wall of water like that, you have a lot of wind that is associated with it as well. And those storms are tall. They're tapping into stronger winds, which are up above our head. And so that's why you can have that wind threat. All along this line, I just see little bowed out features like that. And that, to me, is a wind indicator. And then, again, we're looking at out to the west of Perryville. There's a lot of wind coming toward the radar site in a broad area there. We're going to watch for any indication, though, that there's a turning of the wind. And winds going away from the radar site as strong as the winds coming in. And that would be a tornado indicator. And then out west of Hot Springs, we have that storm that we have to watch as well. I think the one thing that I've noticed here coming into the Little Rock area, these are growing thunderstorms coming into Saline County, down around Malvern, and also up into Pulaski County. There's a lot of rain associated with those. Those are not severe thunderstorm yet, anyway, but if they move up across this area, it will have a stabilizing effect, at least over that area, and so we can hope that these do not reach severe limits as they move on up into the Little Rock area. Stabilizing, yes, but then out in advance of that, in eastern Arkansas, central into eastern Arkansas, you see one or two cells like the one that we saw over in Woodruff County. There's just not much coverage of rainfall out there. That is a hot environment. Yeah, it's just hot out there, 85, 88 degrees, a lot of humidity, very favorable wind profile out into that part of the state. So I'm saying from around where these storms are, maybe just south of Little Rock, eastward and southeastward, I think that's where the highest threat will be. Not going to discount it here in the metro area at all, because we have to watch these storms that are coming up from the south. But right now we do have some rainfall there, and if we can keep this rain moving in, it will cool the atmosphere, at least in a sort of a micro-scale environment, not a large-scale environment. But let me just tell you, there's plenty of energy out there, and it's only going the wrong way, James, as far as a likelihood of some of these storms producing a tornado.
Yeah, and the area you just talked about, I drew it on here. Really, just east of I-30, up through Grant County, up through the eastern section of Pulaski County. That is where the winds really begin to shift a little bit. That's where the instability is the highest. It's where really all the ingredients come together for the most significant severe weather threat. That's what we've been talking about really for the last day or so, the eastern half of the state. That doesn't mean nothing towards the west, but I still think as these storms advance, they're going to hit that line right around I-30 in the metro area, and there's going to kind of flip a switch where I think we'll start to see the more significant severe weather threat take shape. We're already starting to see that line intensify. An hour ago, that line was more just an area of rain. Now we have embedded areas of high winds with more storms developing out in advance of that line. And I want to show you a couple of things on the severe thunderstorm warning coming into the Conway area. The shape of the warning has caught my eye. This is kind of taking on that backwards C shape. And so whenever you see this right here, there's kind of a backwards C. That's high winds that's headed right into Perryville. That's the Toadsuck Dam right there, Lake Conway, and Greenbrier. That's moving off towards the northeast. So 60-mile-per-hour winds starting to look like a good bet with this area of wind that surges off towards the east. And you can kind of see it on the radar with the wind mode. You see those brighter green colors advancing off towards the east and northeast. So Conway, it's almost time for the storm here. I think we'll be getting this in about 30 minutes. It's moving very, very quickly off towards the northeast. There's going to be heavy rain, but I would say right now the tornado threat does not look high with this. I can't rule out a spin up along the line, but this looks more like a damaging wind threat to Perry County, the Morrilton area, Conway County, and into the Faulner County area. So those kinds of events can be just as damaging as a weak tornado if you have a tree go down on your property. So start to get where you want to be with this storm that's coming into Conway. I do notice the area of wind going away from the radar, but I want to point something out to you on the radar here. This is going away from the radar. This is going towards the radar. I don't really see a ton of rotation where I'd be too concerned about a tornado. I don't know what the National Weather Service thinks about it either. They're the ones that issue the warnings, but right now, mostly concerned with the high wind threat that's going into just north of the metro area here in the next few minutes. The line's beginning to intensify, and so are the storms in advance of the line. A lot of them now beginning to produce lightning. And as you look down into South Arkansas, the storm that's coming out of Union County actually looks like it might be struggling to hold itself together, but you've got another storm coming up through Bradley County, and you've got another one north of that, and all these have to be watched. You've got one over here just southeast of I-30 that's a little bit more mature, and if it can move northeast at all, I think this cell southwest of Little Rock could end up being a pretty big deal as it moves towards the northeast. So looking at some surface observations, it looks like the 70-degree dew points are right along where that storm is sitting. The winds are just a little bit more out of the south, towards the south of the storm, and I'm talking about the storm that's in the northwest side of Grant County. We don't really see any low-level rotation with that yet because I don't think it's in the perfect spot to start rotating, but you know, guys, just giving my opinion here on how things look, if you told me this radar image and you gave me the ingredients that exist over eastern Arkansas, I'd be very concerned with these storms that are developing both in central Arkansas and in southeast Arkansas, the line as well with a high wind threat. I think this is kind of, unfortunately, is taking the look so far of how we'd expect things to go. The timing certainly is a little bit delayed, but I think that just raises the risk for the eastern and southeastern half of the state. We'll have to see what comes through Little Rock here. There's no way really for us to tell if this is going to become tornado warned as it moves into the Little Rock metro area, but I think it's going to be intensifying right on top of us. Austin, the cell that was in eastern Arkansas kind of fell apart. I doubt the chasers are even on it. They might be repositioning.
I was keeping an eye on them a little bit ago, and they were kind of just stopping, kind of gathering themselves, watching to see if the storm is going to continue to maintain or weaken. Their feed right now is kind of in and out. They're probably in a bad cell service right now. But other than that, we have been tracking those other storms in southwest of Little Rock in locations. There have been plenty of tornado warnings, like we've mentioned before, towards areas east of the Mississippi River. Maybe even, I think I've seen a tornado report there as well, but our main concern are the storms here in central Arkansas. We've seen power outages as well continue to increase in some spots. You can see under 10,000, Polk County had that line of storms that moved through less than an hour ago towards Russellville, 1,800 out in the county. Looking towards Perry County, 300 customers out. Yell County, 200 customers out. So these storms, either by lightning or maybe some gusty winds, are producing some power outages with the possibility of damaging winds and even frequent lightning. You want to stay indoors, try not to go outside. But if you do see any damage afterwards, please send to us ktv.com/chime in, and we'd show it on air and really send it off to the National Weather Service as a report as well, because they need as much help as they can get today. Still watching those storms, 3 severe thunderstorms from Garland County, Montgomery County, off towards the north towards Perry County. Conway, James just talked about that one, and then the other one towards areas of Heber Springs. Barry, not sure if you're watching the storms as well towards Saline County and here in Little Rock, but they still seem to be intensifying as they slide off towards the north and east.
They are, and they're taking off kind of an elongated look, and they're worrisome, but they are not warned yet, and I don't see any indication of rotation with them, and that is great news. I do want to take Storyteller, if we can, real quick, and we'll show you just one of our iDrive Arkansas cameras from the Arkansas Department of Transportation. This is looking eastbound through Benton on I-30, and the rain is starting to pick up there. It's starting to pick up in parts of Little Rock, including right here at the station. I hear rain. Parts of West Little Rock, some very heavy rain starting to fall, and moving up to the north of Benton also. So the heaviest rain is not right here on the picture that we're showing, but it's just off to the west of Benton right there. That storm is really starting to look like a supercell. A lot of rain area, a little appendage hanging down from it. Same thing with the one down to the south, but apparently there's a missing ingredient so far. I want you to really watch with me, both north and south of I-30 and in the Little Rock area, for those storms right there. I know they're not warned as of yet, but this is the kind of thing that all of a sudden one of these could start to rotate, and that's why we're here, and is to let you know what we're looking at and what is occurring too. And out to the west of Hot Springs, there's a very windy thunderstorm out there. It's moving up along Highway 70 and Highway 270 as it progresses off to the east. Rotation-wise, don't see much going on with that. One approaching Perryville. Now that is a lot of wind there. That's moving across Pettigene Mountain and then on down toward Morrilton right now. And the leading edge of it, we're going to watch, there's a little notch right there to the west of Perryville. It's not much, but we're going to watch for along that line the possibility that there could be a small tornado within that area, which is generally just a wind threat over a broad area, straight line wind threat. It is still warned there. Morrilton, Conway, Greenbrier, Perryville, you're all in that severe thunderstorm warning, as well as the area from Heber Springs northward in Cleburne County and Stone County, and even headed over into the western part of Independence County. So those are the 3 severe thunderstorm warnings we have along the line, and then the storms that are out in advance. And guys, I really hope that these storms, which stretch all the way from Maumelle into the western part of Pulaski County, Saline County, I hope they continue to not rotate and just lay down a cooling rain over that now rather broad area. But they're moving into a really unstable air mass, and they're sort of out by themselves. And so I think we're going to have to watch that, especially perhaps the southernmost one, north of Poen. I think that is that just has kind of an unimpeded warm, humid air flow into it right now. So again, we're just watching it, but those are the kind of things that we watch for, and that's great. We can see the science of it is such now, and the technology of it is that if it starts to rotate, we're going to be able to tell you, and we're going to be able to tell you exactly where it is and which way it's headed. And that's the great thing about this, and we hope that we don't see any of that, but we fear that we probably will see some of that as it heads into a really destabilizing part of the day. James?
Right now, the main threat northwest of I-30 and US 67 is high winds. You've got two storms approaching the metro area that have that backwards C shape to it. The one coming into Garland County is one of them. The one headed into Faulner County and Conway County is the other one. Those are high wind producers as they move off towards the northeast. I think we're going to see some 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, some power outages. I'll have Austin Burks check on the power outage numbers here shortly. But as you look further in advance of that line, that's where we have the supercell concern. We've got a couple of storms now moving through Saline County. Barry just kind of went over it. They continue to just grow and grow. Really, there's a fine dividing line. It's kind of like a boundary that's set up right along I-30 and US 67. I think as storms advance to that line, that's where they're really going to start to show signs of tornado potential. So the metro area here, the next 2 hours, I think this is going to be through the metro area. These two lines are going to move through here likely with a high wind potential, but we cannot discount tornado potential for the metro area, even though we feel like it's just going to be a little bit greater for areas just to the east. You look out into West Tennessee, and there's lots of tornado warnings, and elsewhere around Arkansas, there's a rapidly maturing storm headed up towards Hazen. I'll take a quick look at that storm. Developing very quickly, coming up on I-40. Still has some room to grow, it appears, and there's no rotation there in the lowest levels. But we'll continue to watch that one. There's other storms that are developing back towards the south. One is in northern Bradley County, and it's advancing north as well. I think we've got 3 severe thunderstorm warnings. One, northern Cleveland County storm. There's the storm coming up on the Arkansas River and I-40, and then you got the storm back towards Hot Springs. All 3 have high winds, maybe some large hail as well. But that big concern that we have, I know we keep saying it. If you're just now joining us, perhaps you've just ended a day of work, you're getting ready to tune in our 5 p.m. news. If no tornado warnings are in effect at 5 o'clock, we will have other aspects of our 5 p.m. news for you while we continue to watch radar. And if at any point during our 5 p.m. news tornado warnings are issued, we'll just go wall to wall with that. And imagine here at about 5:30, these storms getting closer to the metro area. We're going to have that high wind threat. And a good chance that some of these storms do have enough components that they can begin to produce tornadoes. Austin.
Yeah, just looking at our RDOT camera here along I-40 out of Morrilton and those locations. This is looking eastbound. You can kind of see those low clouds starting to rapidly move out of the southeast there. This is looking generally in the direction of that line of storms that James was just showing there on radar. So this area is about to be impacted by that line of storms that could produce some very gusty winds, maybe up to 60 miles per hour. Still seeing some stronger wind returns there on velocity. That is one of the main areas we are watching here is along I-40 there, just off around the Morrilton area, just southeast of Atkins as well. Showed you power outages just a little bit ago. Still 9,000 customers out across the state. Most of them confined towards areas of Pope County, just under 1,800 over towards Russellville, North Russellville around State Highway Arkansas 7. Then looking towards Perry, areas of Yell County as well. Still a sparse amount of power outages, but maybe from lightning, some gusty winds. There are some strong thunderstorms moving through those locations that we are still watching, heading towards areas of like Conway and towards Faulkner County as well. We can show you there on Storm Scan some of those storms we are tracking there across areas towards Little Rock. There's that one storm near Benton, just north of Benton, moving into Pulaski County, and one just south of Benton in Saline County we're keeping an eye on. More notably, this line of storms right here towards Perryville, heading towards Conway, off to about 40 to 50 miles per hour. More storms down towards areas of western Garland County. This will be heading towards the Piercy area, Sunshine, Lake Ouachita. Those locations, probably some higher winds, lots of lightning. and even some hail with this storm as it slides off towards the north and east. And one more storm we're also tracking up there towards the Mountain View area. We'll also have to keep an eye on that storm there just to the north of Stuttgart. That one's starting to look a little concerning there. We'll have to see if it continues to ramp up here, maybe be severe warned, but we are expecting the atmosphere to really become more favorable for severe weather as the evening progresses here. So we're going to continue to bring you more updates here online and on air as we have the 5 o'clock show coming up here shortly. Barry, not sure if you're seeing what I'm seeing with those storms really ramping up there, moving into western Pulaski County there, moving into get close to the Little Rock area here shortly.
Yeah, I would say yes, and there is some wind with them that I've seen also. There's a lot of lightning and thunder with those. I don't like the shape of them, but no obvious signs of rotation with the little appendages that are hanging down. But I'm just going to say, let's be careful with those storms, folks, and stick with us. And we're going to continue to watch them, and we will not be shocked if somewhere we might see a rotating thunderstorm with those. Still out moving through Perry County and Conway County. That is a bowed out area of wind that's going to be moving up toward Morrilton, Damascus, Greenbrier, and Conway along the 65 corridor. We still have the one that's moving from Cleburne County all the way up into Stone County, progressing off to the east. Does have a wind potential with it. And in southwest Arkansas, Austin told you about this one along the Highway 70 and Highway 270 corridor there, coming into the western part of Garland County. It'll be affecting Mountain Pine, Lake Washita, and eventually the Hot Springs area as it bows out. Looks like maybe at the north end of that, there might be a little bit more wind than in some other areas. And also the storms out to the east. Those are the ones that we're watching very carefully. I see a storm north of Warren right now that's really trying to become a mature supercell. It has that appendage hanging down. There's not a lot to it right now, but those are the kinds of things I think we have to watch.
I'm starting to notice, Barry, some increased wind returns within these two storms entering the metro area.
Yeah.
They're weak right now, but with the shape of the storm, starting to notice the wind kind of moving away from there, moving towards the radar there. So we're starting to kind of see the first signs that these storms are getting their act together. That's both that storm that's moving to the Big Rock interchange and the one that's further towards the south near Haskell. I think the one to the north right now has a better chance to try and rotate at least on the weaker side. There's a new severe thunderstorm warning that includes most of Garland County, most of the northern half of Saline County, north of I-30. And again, that is mainly for wind. It is moving rapidly off towards the northeast. You see that the storm off towards the west is just a straight line. And straight line winds are going to be the main threat with storms that look like that. Off towards the east, you see the two storms that's starting to develop closer to Little Rock, and they've got the tail there on the southern end. Those could be potential tornadic problems as they mature, maybe right over, just east or northeast of the metro area. At some point, these lines are going to catch these, so that would put an end to those storms. But there are other storms that we will be watching. It's just a waiting game, really. You know, the storms continue to mature. We have a few others. Barry's just went over them in the state. A few others down in South Arkansas. The main line, though, I think there is something to be said for this main line, because as it approaches the I-30 corridor, as we've been saying, it is going to likely intensify. And we've already seen a couple of pockets of high winds start to occur within this line with the cell that's coming into the Conway area. Looking at poweroutage.us real quick, we are up to 6,800 outages so far, several of them in Miller County, but White County as well. There's over 1,000 in White County, so not sure what the starting number was, but looks like some of those are not weather related. But back down into the metro area, I want to go focus in on the Conway storm for those of you that are in Faulner County. The storm that's off towards the west and continues to advance towards Conway and Greenbrier. It's not just Conway. Greenbrier, Damascus. It sure doesn't look like a tornado threat right now, but I think the high wind threat is increasing. I think we could probably see some trees or power lines down As this moves through Faulner County, that's really going to extend from Lake Conway up to Conway, Greenbrier, and Damascus. Looks like the core of those winds. Maybe you're headed right towards Conway and from there off towards Valonia. There are additional storms popping up in advance of that, just to the east. And Austin, do we have a, I'll have to check here. Do we have a tower cam view of the storms coming into Little Rock?
Let's take, that's Hot Springs right there. Let's take the Little Rock camera, or just take Max 1 if we can, guys.
I'm on 1. Let's take 2.
Or Max 2, sorry.
Let's take 2.
Instance number 2. Instance number 2. There we go. That storm
you can kind of see it.
I think it's starting to lower a little bit in West Little Rock, guys. It's still no obvious sign of rotation, but I'm just a little more worried about that storm than I was. Just a slight lowering there, and there are really 2 storms that we're looking at as it comes into that area, into Pulaski County and into Saline County, and I'll show you those on our map. But yeah, let me go back to this. There's the Heber Springs storm into the Little Rock area. You can see how these 2 storms, there's just kind of an elongated pattern right there, and that is western Pulaski County. And there's been a big area of rain move almost due north through West Little Rock. And then this one with the tail end right there just south of Benton, that is starting to wrap up, I think, just a little on the south end of that. Not as much on the north storm, but I'm really watching West Little Rock, and I'm really watching the one south of Benton. And I tell you what, I'm not. It's not imminent, I don't think, but I think these are going to start to rotate. Again, I don't see a ton of rotation with those, but just the shape of those storms and that they are out kind of on the eastern edge of this area where there isn't rain or hasn't been much rain. I think we need to watch those very carefully, along with those storms that are already warned. They're just starting to break out. We see another storm southwest of Star City. And that one is the one that I talked about in Bradley County.
It's a very concerning one.
Yeah, and it's going to start to rotate. It already is. You can see it. The winds outbound are not quite as strong as they were, but we're going to have to, we're going to watch that very carefully. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to take a quick break. We are not going to abandon coverage of any of this. There's a lot of wind that's headed toward places like Plummerville and then out to the Conway area. That's a big area of wind, I think, that's going to be moving into western Faulkner County. So we're going to watch all of these storms, including the 2 in the metro area, that the shape of which I just don't like a whole lot. But I will tell you that there's a lot of rain that's moving up into the Little Rock area, and hopefully that has a cooling effect on the atmosphere, and these things don't start to rotate as they move into this area. The atmosphere is obviously destabilizing, though. The wind profile, I think, in the atmosphere is just way better than it was. It's where will these storms start to rotate? And that's the big question. We are going to be watching these all evening long. We are not going to abandon our coverage of this. We're just going to catch our breath. We are going to talk, we're going to go to our 5 o'clock newscast in just a little bit. I don't know exactly how long that is. I'm thinking it's about a minute from now. But and we do want to apologize for breaking into jeopardy today. In this kind of a storm environment, we just felt like that we needed to stay on the air. But I know those of you who are Jeopardy fans are disappointed by that, and we apologize sincerely. But I think this is the kind of atmosphere that we just have to watch. Now, there's the new severe thunderstorm warning. It's been issued for the majority of Pulaski County, and really it emanates from that storm that's now down to the east of Benton, so the eastern part of Saline County moving up into the Little Rock area. We're going to watch for rotation on that, and we are going to go to a break real quickly. The rain's starting to pick up here in the Little Rock area, and we're going to come back with our 5 o'clock newscast coming up.